already know that I strongly encourage you to write your own riffs. There's nothing better than when you create something, because you're more than just a guitar player. You're actually a creator. You've got it within you to do that. But one of the challenges that I know I've run into in the past, and still do from time to time, is you write riff after riff and they all sort of sound the same. It's like, oh crap, man, I need to write something different. Well, I've got 5 things I want to share with you. These are things that I think about when I go through my riff writing sessions, and I think that will help you come up with some more creative riffs. Actually, there's 6. There's a little bonus tip I throw in at the end, so hang around for that too. One of the challenges that we have as metal guitar players is we love the lower notes. So oftentimes, I'm in standard tuning, by the way, most of you know that, but oftentimes we head straight for that heaviest or that lowest note possible every time. And that can, over time, make our stuff, our riffs, sound the same. How many albums have you heard where you're like on track 4 and you're like, man, track 4 sounds like track 2 and like track 3. Then you get to track 7 and you're like, this sounds like 2, 3, and 4. So a lot of times that's because they started the song with the same low note. Everything's starting out on that same note, right? So one of the ways to get around that, and I encourage you to do this, by the way, is simply take any riff that you've written and just play it somewhere different, especially if you tend to go for those lowest notes possible. So let's like come up with some a little stock metal riff here, right? One easy way we can change this a little bit, and it'll be the same riff, but it's just going to sound different, is just play it somewhere else. Let's just start anywhere else. Okay, so not a tremendous difference there. Again, same riff, same cadence, same everything. Of course, you can change it all around, right? But a couple of things will happen here. Number one, it just gets used to starting somewhere else. So instead of going here all the time, that's going to have you more inclined to say, hey, well, why don't we start somewhere else instead of F sharp, right? We went to E to F sharp. When you start to play in different keys, in places you're not used to playing throughout the fretboard, that's going to inspire you to try some new things. That's going to inspire you to play something different. So this is huge. This is like where your creativity can just really take a twist. It's like, okay, I'm not playing the same notes anymore, playing in a different key, venturing off the beaten path. Well, that's going to really bring out some new riffs and some killer new riffs that you're going to write. Now, power chords, that's the foundation of metal guitar. It's just like part of that solid metal rock, yeah, tomato. You know what I'm saying. That's the foundation, though, of playing metal music, and it's the foundation, I would venture to say, for really any subgenre of metal or rock for that matter. But where we can get stuck is if we're just playing those power chords. Now, if the style of music you're writing, if that's what it calls for, that's fine. Or if you're just starting out and you're not playing a lot of single note riffs yet and you're playing those power chords, getting those down, that's fine too. But let me show you a simple way to break out of that. And well, it's real easy, and I've talked about this on many videos before, but it's just changing the notes of the power chord around a bit. And you can start by changing the second note of the power chord. You know, your power chord is 2 notes. You've got your root note, your 5th note. We'll change that next note around. Check this out. Pretty Cool. So we took one power chord, and I'll share some of the other things I did up here, but we took one power chord, an E power chord. Well, first of all, we didn't start with the lowest note possible. We did this instead. So there's one, not really variation, but you just played the power chord an octave higher. A and D strings, right? Frets 7 and 9. But what we did was we changed that second note of the power chord. So again, 7, 9, fret 7, 9 on A and D strings. We went from 7, 9 to 7, 10. Then we went 7, 7. Then we kind of like reverse the finger position, which I love these power chords here. We went 7, 5. Okay, so A string 7th fret, D string 5th fret. And I think at one point I even went 7, 4. So right there, we made several variations of just one power chord. We got some really unique and cool sounds out of those. And then I moved on to like a D power chord. Instead of playing a regular D, played this. So D power chord, instead of 5 and 7, I went 5, 4, 5, 5. So that's just one simple example on how you can change that next note and just make the power chord into something else. Another quick thing before we move to the next tip here is you could be playing a power chord on the A and D strings and make it sound heavy by doing this. Now we know that as an inversion, but in this case, all I'm doing is I'm taking the power chord, the root note, and again, that second note, that next note of the power chord, that's called your 5th note. But instead of just playing those two notes, well, we bar the E string of the 5th fret, which that gives us the lower octave of the 5th note. So instead of A and D strings 5 and 7, we're actually playing strings E, A, and D 5, 5, 7. So instead of this, you get this. That sounds pretty brutal. Again, one of many ways you can take a regular power chord and just make it sound cooler. The riff. Now, riffs are great, and I'll never discourage you from writing new riffs. I'll never discourage you from writing anything. I want you to always work on developing your own style, whatever that may be. I believe that's the most important thing that you can do, and that's my underlying message to you, okay? So, the riff, though, we can at times get caught up into, well, we come up with these cool single note riffs. That's great, but there's no structure. How many times have you written something like a cool little riff, like what we just did, but then you're like, I'm not sure what else to do with it. Like, where do I go from there? What I encourage you to do in this case is to start thinking outside just the riff and think about what is the foundation of this riff? What is the progression that surrounds this riff? So we go back to this little thing. If I start piecing together the rhythm that might be played on top of that by another guitar or the bass or just the chords in general. Okay, we just opened the door to many other possibilities just by doing that alone, because now I've got something that fits that. And how did I figure that out? Well, I just kind of like, where am I playing at here? What's like the core chord that goes on top of this, right? That goes with this. And that's just something I want you to play around with. So if you're in your studio, for example, or even just recorded on your phone. So I would have you play it several times, maybe like 10 times, then pull your guitar out, open up another track for your second guitar if you're in your studio, or if you just recorded that on your phone, play that back, maybe record that for like a minute or something like that, and start messing around with some power chords over that, okay? You'll easily be able to tell what fits and what doesn't. And I'm not saying stick with any kind of rule. I mean, you might find some chords like, okay, well, that doesn't really fit the key that's in, but it sounds cool. And if it sounds cool, well, hey, it sounds cool. Use it. But now I want you to think even beyond that. I want you to start thinking about expanding on a progression. So now that could be part of the song. What's next after that? Well, we're kind of playing the E power chord. We're going to a B flat. So something I could do Okay, in videos like this, guys, I'm really just off the cuff here. None of this is planned out. I'm just kind of making this stuff as we go. But this is how you're creating, just like I'm doing this off the cuff, where you're doing this off the cuff. You're doing it, you're creating it, right? You're doing it in real time. So I want you to give yourself the freedom to just go with it. Go with whatever. If it doesn't sound good, great. Okay, fine. Chunk that piece, throw in something else. Now, another little tip to that, we talked about going for the lowest note possible. I also encourage you to change keys. And I'm not saying you have to do this all the time. I'm not saying you have to do this often, but it does kind of help, like, just feed that song. We went to a different key. We went from playing in the key of E minor, we've got a B flat in there, but then I think we went to F sharp after that, right? So I think technically we might have been in the key of B minor. That's where I landed on, but we're kind of all over the place. We just stepped outside a little bit, right? We stepped outside of that key. So you can do a lot of different things like that. Okay, and then I went to that C note there, kind of gave it a little wicked twist there. Then we can go back to whatever. And again, guys, we're just making this up. This is the writing process, and this is what I encourage you to do. Spend some time with your instrument and just exploring and just writing. There's no right or wrong answer. All you're doing is being creative, and I want to bring that out of you. So I hope this video is doing a good job of that so far. Now this is stretching things a little bit here, but I want to talk to you about the box of techniques and how we approach and perform certain techniques that we can get stuck in at times. Now, let me just say this first though. If these box of techniques, the way you perform, the way you approach the notes, that becomes your style, and if that's really part of your signature style, I welcome that. We just talked about that, so I welcome that. However, I do encourage you to stretch yourself outside of your norm at times. So what we played, and again, this stuff is just kind of being made up as we go, there's a lot of picking techniques involved here. We're playing some power chords, right? We've got some down picking, we've got some alternate picking, we did some galloping. One thing you'll notice I also did, which I don't do a lot of, and I want to start doing more of, was I stepped outside a bit and I arpeggiated just kind of some regular chord notes. I played a version of the D chord there, and I arpeggiated some notes. So we went from what we typically hear in metal music, some picking techniques. We went from all that stuff there to something like this. And I just want to share that to share how changing things up, how stepping outside of your norm. We all have our own norm, right? There is no really like the norm. You have your own norm. And again, I love that. I want you to have that. I want you to develop your own style so when people hear you play without even seeing you, they're like, okay, that's you. I know that's you. That's Tom. That's Eddie. That's Drew. That's Lisa. Whoever, right? I want them to know it's you because it's your style. However, breaking outside of your norm from time to time and just stretching yourself to do something different doesn't even have to be difficult. We're not in a contest who can play the most difficult riff. Who cares, right? What we're talking about is developing your own style and you stepping outside your norm so that you can what? So that you can do what you're meant to do, and that is to create. All right, we've just got to dial in the perfect tone here. I don't think that's going to be it. Let's try something else. Maybe if we just have the right amp sound. I think this is it here. Someone told me this is the perfect metal sound. All right, let's try this. I think this is going to be the absolute perfect tone ever. It's just not sounding right. I just can't seem to get the perfect tone. One thing that can hold you back as a musician and guitar player, and it's the one thing we probably love to talk about the most, is tone. I challenge you, though, to not allow yourself to obsess over tone. Now, I'm not going to say tone is not important. It is important. You want to be inspired by the guitar tone. If you're not inspired by that tone or by the guitar you're playing, for that matter, you're probably not going to play as well. You're not going to be as creative. But I want to just point this out real quick. When we say tone, oh, that's a great tone, I don't think that we're really talking about the tone. I think what we're really talking about is the style that's being played. This goes back to you developing your own style so that when people hear you play, they're like, okay, that's a style. Even if they don't know who you are, it's like, okay, man, I like what I'm hearing. I like how they approach the notes. I like the progressions and the licks and stuff. I like everything that they're doing. It just resonates with me. That's more than often not the tone. It's the style of playing. And what made me think about this, I do videos in other places sometimes. I do some work with Replay Guitar Exchange, my good friend Riff with Cliff. I go over there and film and present gear for you guys. And someone asked me in one of those videos, like, hey, when you go somewhere else to play, you don't have your gear, you're playing through somebody else's amp or their guitar or whatever in the store. Like, what do you bring with you? I'm like, I don't bring anything. I just plug in and I play whatever I'm presented with at that time. And then that spawned the conversation. Most of the time, we're not really hearing the tone. We're more so hearing the style. Again, I'm not saying tone is not important, but I do believe it's more the style that's resonating with us that's either like attracting us, like, man, that is really, really cool, right? Now, you pair the style with a really just phenomenal tone, of course, that's even better. But, I've seen the videos out there, and I won't harp on this too much, but I've seen all the videos set up to where they got two different guitar players playing through the same guitar, same amp, and they're just strumming some power chords. Well, of course it's going to sound the same because they're playing the same thing. Where you're going to get a difference in overall sound, maybe not necessarily tone, but sound, and I will say feel, is if you ask those two guitar players playing through the same amplifier, same guitar, to make something up that's your style. Just play. Then you're going to hear something different, and that's going to be the style. And this also, I believe, impacts what we're hearing tone-wise as well. Now, some people might not like this conversation, but I'm telling you, you take somebody like Joe Satriani, I'm a believer that he could plug into any amplifier, and you're going to be able to tell it's Joe Satriani. The sound might sound a little different depending on the amp, sure, the tone or whatever, but the point is that's Joe Satriani. Because of what? Because of the style. So again, tone is great. Tone is important. I'm playing through right now. I'm playing through the amp knob series from Bogren Digital. But as you see here, it's one knob. I don't have to worry about tone. Now I love playing through amplifiers too. I love playing through a tube amplifier. I've got a Black Star amp. I'm gonna hopefully be getting some more amps in the room here pretty soon. And I love amp pedals. I love hardware. I love hardware and amps probably more than software. But I play through it all. And again, at the end of the day, it's going to be more about my style that I believe that's coming across to you, that's hopefully inspiring you, not so much the tone itself. Now, there's one more tip I want to share with you real quick, kind of a bonus tip here. But before we get to that, if you do not have my free metal guitar practice guide, Metal Riffs and Licks, grab a copy of that. There is a link in the description of this video. I give this away to all of my subscribers. You'll get a free download. It's an ebook, and it's got links to video lessons and tabs as well. So it's like more than just a practice guide. It's like a full-blown metal guitar series of courses and the book. Okay, so grab a copy of that if you don't have it. Now, if you have Metal Riffs and Licks already, and you like videos like this, you like my style of teaching and sharing things, then consider joining the Jason Stallworth Guitar Academy. I'd love to see you in there. I've got a link for that in the description as well. Now, one last thing I think will help you tremendously, and this is more probably for you intermediate to advanced guitar players. We can get in the trap of thinking that everything has to be ultra fast and ultra complex, right? Like we're just trying to impress guitar players and we're not really worried about the song anymore. And I'm not against fast playing. I mean, you know I play fast sometimes too. But when that's all you do is just play lightning speed, well, that can run the risk of every one of your riffs and songs sounding the same, even though they're different. So one thing that you can consider doing from time to time, and I'm not saying do this all the time, I'm not saying throw out your fast riffs and throw out your fast style, but you can do some things so that every fast riff doesn't sound the same. This is one of them. So let's say we've got this cool riff. And let's say, okay, that's one of the cool riffs you just wrote, but then the other 5 riffs you wrote yesterday and the one you wrote this morning, well, they're all the same speed, same cadence. Let's just play as fast as we possibly can. Here's something that you can consider doing. What if we just took that and just change the picking pattern? So let's not alternate pick. Let's, just do some downstrokes here. And maybe let's let some of the chords ring out a little bit. Let's just see, making a few changes, what can happen with that. So we got a little bit different cadence out of that, just a little bit different overall feel to that. And again, if everything else you've been writing has been super fast, if we just back things out a little bit, right, and slow things down just a little bit, well, that one riff, so the first 3-4 songs are fast, but then we've got that. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's something cool. That's something different. And again, whenever you change things up, whenever you get outside of your norm, whatever your norm is, okay, and your norm is okay. It's your style. You're developing your own style, and I want you to have that, right? This is your norm, but I do want you to step outside of that from time to time. All that will do is kind of expand your norm, because you'll start to grow as a guitar player. And again, I want to stress that just playing fast riffs all the time, that's great, that's fine. But it doesn't necessarily mean a better song every time, right? A better riff every time. Sometimes things can be really challenging to play, but then when you go back and hear it, it's like, okay, well, that's a hard riff to play, but I mean, listening to it, it's just not really doing much for me, you know? So this is just encourage you to listen to your riffs objectively, right? When you write riffs, listen to those objectively. First of all, do they sound good? Does this resonate with me? You know, it's hard to play, but does it really sound cool? The answer might be yes. Most of the time, it may be yes, and that's a good thing, right? Hey, go with that. But in the event that it's a no, it's like, well, what if you stepped outside of your norm just a little bit? Yeah, I'm used to playing fast all the time, but what if I slow things down just for this one riff? Well, that will lead into so many other areas because that's outside of your norm, right? So guys, I really hope these tips help you develop more of your own style of playing. Again, that's the most important thing that you can do as a guitar player. I don't want you to be plagued with trying to sound like this person or thinking that you have to play like this person or have that sound or whatever. Yeah, we have our influences, and I think those are great to have, but use those influences not to sound like those influences, but to develop your own style. Okay, I want you to do that. And that's like the true route to freedom, to being your own guitar player, being your own musician, and that's what I want for you. So again, guys, I hope this helps. Leave me any questions in the comments. As always, keep it metal and keep playing music. Standing on the edge of darkness.